Welcome back to another episode of Why Do I Do That? Today, I have Chloe Bromage on with me. She is the founder of Health Hyped. She is like CEO, boss woman vibes. She's the confidence queen. She's just a vibe. She is actually also, I would call you my business coach because I don't have an official business coach, but if I have a business issue, I'm like booking a call with her. And it's funny how it's like swings and roundabouts because Chloe also has come to me for sessions in the past for trauma, which we might talk about later. And yeah, so welcome, Chloe.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm so pumped for this one. So as always, we're going to jump straight into the questions, straight into the juice. And the question today is, why do I feel confident until I step out of the house? And I can hard relate to that.
I think a lot of women can hard relate to that because I think we also almost in our own home have a false sense of confidence. But what people forget about confidence is it's your ability to know that no matter what happens in your life, you're going to be okay. And you have evidence that you're going to be okay in your own house because you know that you can handle everything in your own house.
Right.
But then it's like, if I don't have evidence that I'm going to be okay, if I'm not socially awkward or I'm not going to say something dumb or like we all do, we're all human, right? So I feel like for most women, that's actually the thing.
That's what's happening when they step out of the house.
Yeah, they're like, oh, because again, it's a control thing. You know, you working with a lot of people with trauma, you know that it's like we have this thing where if I can control everything that goes on, then I'm safe, right? If I can control how people see me, if I can control what I do, what I say, but ultimately at the end of the day, like we don't really have any form of control. We can control how we show up, but that's it.
So you're saying that you feel confident at home because you feel safe.
Yes.
And as soon as you step out of the house, you're feeling unsafe. So it's not actually an issue of confidence, it's an issue of safety.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And I think, again, people, it's a spectrum. Like you can feel confident, obviously, with your friends and family is going to be very different to strangers. And the goal, I think, for a lot of people, it's just work on stepping outside that comfort zone a little bit more. That's all it is.
Yeah. Because I used to feel like that in that, and this is like full comparisonitis. I used to be like, I look good today. Like, and then I'd be like, my makeup looks good, my skin's good, my hair's good, everything. And then I get into like a social setting and I'm like, I actually feel really ugly right now.
Yeah.
Because I would compare myself to people around me. And if I felt like they were more vibrant or beautiful or skinny or whatever it is, I would then shrink.
Yeah, and I feel like it's common for, I think women especially, it's like from a very, very young age, we're almost pitted against each other, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And so we do that because, again, that's a form of safety though. And it's you checking in, okay, where do I fit here? Like as humans, we find a hierarchy. So no matter where you are, you're going to go, where do I fit? Where am I the most beautiful?
100%.
Not that it actually matters, but you go, okay, well, if I'm not the most beautiful, then I'm not going to be accepted, which isn't true, but we think that it's true.
And that hierarchy translates like from beauty through to through everything.
Through how intelligent you are, whatever it may be.
Because you talked to me about that hierarchy in our last business coaching session and you said to me, your like whole hierarchy is based on financials, like dollar figures. And I was like, it was like a light bulb moment for me. I was like, oh, it is. Like I've done so much fucking good shit and I have created this like entire certification. I've done all these things that I'm so proud of, but until there was like a dollar figure on it, I was like, I'm down here compared to everybody else. And it's so funny. It completely blew my mind, that hierarchy. So where do you think, and I think I know what you're going to say, but where do you think that hierarchy comes from?
Well, the society. You know, because you look at a little kid doesn't care about how much money, what they look like, you know, what race someone is. They don't care at all. They're just accepting and they're having fun. And so it's 100% a learnt behavior. And I think it's very, very much, look at your family. What does your family value? What does your family say? And it's like, if you know, I grew up in a family where it's like, money doesn't mean anything. You know, as long as you're happy and you're this and that, where as an adult, I've grown up and gone like, no, money is important. And I actually do value money. But you know, it's all these ideas that we create and we go, oh, that must mean something, when it's not always the case. It's like, okay, what does it mean to you? You know?
Yeah. So you're the ultimate confidence gal. And I remember watching one of your stories and you were like, I had this photo shoot and my skin was really bad and I was really nervous and I just did the thing and I just showed up. And that's like that level of work. It's like you show up no matter what. How did you do that? Like, how did you go, okay, I feel like shit, but I have a photo shoot today. How do you think that you just had that confidence inside of you all the time, or if you worked on that, what did you do? That's so many questions.
I love
I'm sure
that.
You'll get them all.
Yeah, I do. And I feel like, I think the main thing is people think that to be confident or to be anything, you have to have zero fear. And it's like, I think that we need to get really comfortable doing things being scared. And I think for me, anytime I've done anything in my life, whether that's like travel alone, start a business, as you know, it's very, very challenging. You're doing it while you're scared. Like you're running and you're falling and you're like, shit's hitting the fan, everything's going to go wrong. And I think for me, it's like, okay, I always picture like the younger version of myself. And I know that sounds really cliche, but I'm like, I don't have kids. So I'm like, if I had a daughter following me around and she heard what I was saying to myself in my head of like, I can't go to this today because I'm ugly, or I look like this, or I don't feel this. I'm like, that's what she's going to learn.
Yes.
And so I really put myself in this position of like, okay, if I can get myself into that mentality of showing up that way, because we always feel worse than it looks to anybody else as well. And I think we need to remember that too. It's like we always will pull ourselves apart, pick ourselves apart, look at ourselves in a way, assume something. And that's the thing, it's based on assumption. I'm assuming that this is what's going to happen when in reality, that's not always true. And so I feel like, yes, one thing about confidence is it is a learned skill. Anybody can learn it. It just takes time and effort. And again, similar to what that first question was, it's just pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was a whole new level of like, okay, well, what energy would you go into this photo shoot with if your skin was clear and you felt really good? I'm going to try and just embody that energy.
Match that.
And isn't it so funny? I felt exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like internally, I felt the same.
Because
even though,
you
yes,
showed
there was
up
things I wanted to
that
change.
way.
Absolutely. And I think you're allowed to. But yeah, so I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So you're saying like kind of like manifesting vibes, like in stepping into the version of you who
Yes.
it's like integrate, like it's really stepping into that version of yourself who can do that
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And I think
Instantly.
that's in any phase of life. Like, you know, you do that when you become a parent. You don't know how to be a parent. And then you're like, I have to just show up as a parent and try my best. You do it when you start a new job. You can't go into a new job being like, I don't know how to do anything. You go in and you put your brave face on and you do the thing.
You learn, yeah.
And you learn as you go. And I think a lot of people think that they have to be equipped with all the skills before they do the thing. And I'm so the opposite. I'm like, imperfect action is my thing. I'm so like, put the
Yes.
perfectionism down and just do it and try.
Yes, there's a book on that, and they talk about like most people wait for the conditions to be right or to have evidence, and then they start to build. But a lot of the time, they never get the evidence.
Yeah.
No,
So
so
you
then they never
will.
do the thing. So you have to like do the thing to get the evidence.
Yeah.
And it's
And that's the trap of the ego, I think, too.
Yeah.
When I'm ready, you'll never be ready.
you'll never be ready.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
now. Yes. Yes. Okay. So thinking back to like the question, like, why do I feel this, and then step out? We've identified that it's like a safety. And like really when we think about safety, it's like, what will other people think of me? And if other people think badly of me, then they're not going to like me or not going to love me, and I'm going to end up alone, which is like
It's massive,
what
scary.
we're afraid of. Scary. Like alone equals death. Like that's the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of physiological or biological fear that's coming up. So your advice to that is like do the thing pretty much.
Yeah, and you know what? I kind of wish that there was something easier, because I know it almost sounds like a bit of wishy-washy advice. Like, we'll just do it. But really, it's like what I love to say to people, I'm like, put your big girl pants on and just do what you can. And it's and like I said, I almost like wish there was something else that I could say, but you can start small. It's like, okay, where are you at? And just push the edge for you. Because I think everybody is going to be at a different starting place. Everybody has different personalities. And I think one thing I will say is what's easier for me is I already have a vivacious personality. So I feel like that almost, I can fake it till I make it a little bit easier, because it comes across as confidence, even if it wasn't. And for a long time, it wasn't. So it's like, okay, just meet yourself where you're at. If going somewhere by yourself is your new edge, go and do that. You know, and find what that edge is for you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So what would be like off the top of your head, your top 3 tips for somebody who wants to start building their confidence?
Go and spend time in solitude. I feel like that's my first and foremost, because people are so afraid of judgment. That's usually what confidence is. I am afraid not to be accepted, but what they don't realize is they're actually afraid of their own judgment.
Yeah.
Because you're projecting what you think someone's going to think, not necessarily what they actually think. So if you spend time by yourself, you actually get to learn pretty quickly what you do and don't think, and you can learn through that.
Yeah.
So it's like literally even if you just go for a walk by yourself without your earphones, anything like that. Another thing, me being a personal trainer, I will say, I think exercise is such a good thing that you can do. You push your comfort zone every single day. Just by trying hard at something, it's in a group of people, you're in a supportive environment, that I think is massive. And the other thing that I think as well is, like what you said, embodying that next level version of yourself. Literally just write down all the things that person would be doing, wearing, saying, and go and do that. It literally actually gets to be as simple or as hard as you make it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I love that. Love all of that. How much do you attribute confidence to your success in your businesses? And
It's everything.
it's everything.
Because like 19-year-old me had no idea. Like I think about it now and I'm like, I was ballsy. Like I literally just quit my job. I was like, oh, I'll just work it out. You know, like, and I'm like, I think me now as a 25-year-old is like, oh my God, I don't even know if I could do that now, if this version of me now, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I think it's everything.
Like delusional level
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah, well, because like it was, very
Literally.
delusional.
Like, like, I'll just work it out.
Yeah, like
life's fun. Everything will just that's so good. I love that.
And I think like it gives you confidence because, it gives you the ability to fail and try again.
Yeah.
People are so scared to fail. And I think one thing that's really gotten me to where I am in all the areas of my life is, yes, I hate failing, like absolutely, but I'm okay to fail.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can look at every hiccup and setback as a learning lesson. And I think that that's sometimes where a lot of humans fall short is they go like, oh, this failure is about me. And it's like, no, it's not about you. It's about your process. It was the way that your mindset towards the situation.
Yes.
It was the way that you executed it. It was the things that you said. It's not actually about your self-worth.
Yes.
But people take the failure as, oh, that's something about me.
Yes. And something you just said then, like, it just triggered my brain of like, we perceive confidence as like a certain persona, right? Like the confident person is like shoulders back, they're loud, they're talking clearly, they're like, taking charge of the room. Like we see confident as looking a certain way, but confidence, if you break it down, is actually self-confidence.
Oh my gosh. It is groundedness. It's like quiet. And one of my best mates in the entire world, he is like the definition of this. He's like an observer. He is like, like I was a monk. He just is in the corner looking, observing. And you would look at him and think, oh, maybe he isn't that confident. By far the most confident person I've ever met in my life.
Yes.
And I think exactly that. We often tie arrogance to confidence and assume that they kind of almost go hand in hand.
Because what you were talking about being 19 and having that, like we'll call it delusional confidence, we could call it delusional confidence, but we could also call that like intense self-confidence and self-trust in your abilities to make it happen.
Yes.
So I don't know I think you said you're happy to share, but like me, that's like impossible. Like I had so much trauma that it was my self-worth and self-confidence was like this big, like so squished. And you've had similar trauma. Tell us about your session with me.
Yeah. So I literally laugh every time I think about it because it was the most unexpected experience of my life. I was like feeling really depressed for like a month and was like, I think I need an energy healer. And I had a friend that actually recommended you to me. So I go there thinking she's going to do some like affirmations with me. I really should have looked more into what I was getting myself. But you know what? I believe in things happening for a reason. Yeah. Because I booked in my session with Jess. We get in there. She starts asking me all these sorts of questions. Has this ever happened to you? Has this ever happened to you? And I'm like, what the? It was like she was like reading a textbook and just like ticking me off one by one.
I was like, I see you, girl.
Yeah. You're like, you are me in a different world. And so she's asking me all these questions about my experience. Oh my God, we could go into it forever. And then we do a breathwork session, and I like unlocked a part of my life that I had never seen before, where I was like, I would say I was traumatized in that. Yeah, like it was. She's asking me, am we allowed to speak about it? Like
anything,
in depth? Yeah,
anything.
Yeah. Like she's like, have you ever been like sexually abused before? And I immediately burst into tears, and I was like, I can't tell you why I know that I was, but I was. And it was the most like terrifying experience, but equally like almost liberating experience of my life of like all these things that I do and am all of a sudden makes so much sense. And so in that, I feel like weirdly that crushed a lot of my confidence, but it equally like opened me up to this whole new level of being able to see myself. Because like we said, confidence is about being able to see all of you, and it's accepting all those parts that you actually don't want to see.
Yes.
And so for me, I think that I almost want to say that I got lucky where my trauma response was to disassociate and be in fight or flight. So I like pushed it all out of the way and was just like, go, 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 go. But that was something that Jess really, really highlighted to me, where you were like, you can't do that forever because you're just running away from all the hurt that you've experienced. And so I think like on one hand, all of my successes and my confidence it was almost a persona. And that was so hard for me to admit because I was like, what do you mean that I'm actually not this vivacious, confident person? And it's almost a mask. And it's true. Yeah. I found all these areas I knew where it was safe for me to be an attention seeker almost. I want to say like an integrated attention seeker. But then there was also a lot of areas where it wasn't safe for me to do that. Yeah. And so isn't it really interesting where like there's parts of things that happen in our life and we'll, almost like shame and hide and guilt trip ourselves. And then you'll find a way to express it in another way. And I think that for confidence, weirdly, for me was that.
Yeah.
Wild.
And you like really went through it. I remember checking on you and we did a couple of sessions.
Yeah, we did.
But you like were really going through it. Like it was low. And I think I'd prepared you. Like I was like, all right, like this is a lot. Yep. Like this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to come up, and like sort of checking and making sure you're okay. But like I guess that's so short-lived, isn't it? Like in the scheme of life.
Yes. I literally remember being like, is this ever going to stop hurting? Like, am I going to stop feeling this way? And then it's like, yes, you do. It's gone. But yeah, it was a very, I don't even know. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like it. Grief is the closest thing that I can say it almost felt like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a huge grieving
Yeah.
process that goes with that whole situation of who you thought you were.
Yes, a self-identity piece.
But it's also, like you said, so amazing because it's like, oh, that's why I do that. And that's where that comes from. And for you, it sounds like you already had this level of like fake it till you make it confidence.
I did.
So you already had that, but then all of a sudden you got rid of all this pain and stripped all these layers down. And then you already had that like blueprint to step into, but integrated.
Yeah.
Oh, love that.
It was awesome. And again, I really do feel like I'm such a big believer that things happen in our life for us to become who we are. And I really do see that, there was a part of my life when, and as everyone that goes through trauma is like, why did this happen to me? This is so unfair. And not that I'm saying that it was fair, but I can also see like, but without that, I also wouldn't be who I am. And that I can be really, really grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk just briefly about your success. And I guess, like I said before, like you attribute confidence to that. But, you are, in my eyes, you do it well. Like you are successful, like financially. And you've got a healthy, secure relationship. You have good friendships. Like you've got a lot going for you.
Yeah.
But like specifically in business, for the women that are listening that are in business, what's your advice? Success in business. What's your 3 tips again?
I think tip number 1, know when to delegate. The biggest thing that I did wrong was I tried to do everything myself because I was such a control freak. I can do it, and got to a point where I bottlenecked so many times and really, really did cap my financial earnings. I really did cap even like the quality of my service because I was, in all honesty, I didn't trust anyone. So I really think being really, really honest of where you actually need to delegate tasks, whether that's like, hire a staff member, get a subcontractor, whatever it may be. And obviously that might be a little bit further along in your journey, but I think that's number 1. Second of all, I think as women, we just have such an intuitive power.
We do.
And I'm like, I know it's a little bit wishy-washy, but I'm like, trust that. You often know what's right before it's right.
Yes.
And even for instance, when I built my app, people were like, Chloe, that's the dumbest decision ever. That is costing you so much money. Don't go and do that. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And I don't even know why I need to do it, but I know I need to. And that has paid off in more ways than I can even tell you. And so it's like trusting your intuition, I think, is massive. And the other one that I see for a lot of women that get into business, because often they're really high achieving, like work on your relationship to failing. Because I see so many women, the minute that something goes wrong or there's a hiccup, they just lean out and they make it about them. Where it's like if you can zoom out and make it about the business, make it about the process, make it about whatever, it makes it so much easier to detach your emotion and just go, okay, what actually needs to be done next time?
Yes.
No matter what it is.
Yes, which I found that so difficult being in an industry where like my own self-growth and healing is reflective in my business. Like it's so attached to
service-based businesses, I think, are different too.
Yeah, especially in the healing industry, because it's like there's so much out there, so much smack out there. Like, is she authentic? Has she actually done the work? Is she who she says she is? Is she showing up? Blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, it's such a.
But I think like any industry, there's just so many highs and lows. You know what I mean? And it's like, as long as you stay the course and do your thing, like,
and sticking to the plan, I think is like,
not getting distracted.
I guess like I have this thing of like and so many women do, if it doesn't work straight away.
Yes. Well, it's the instant gratification thing.
Canning it. Yeah.
And again, if you want to be more confident, you've got to work on your relationship to that too.
Yeah.
It's like hold it down, even if you're not getting the return straight away. And if you don't get the client straight away and whatever it may be, it's like, stay the course.
Play the long game.
Yes.
Play the long game.
And that's what business is about.
Yes, it is. It is about the long game. Well, if you think like about, I don't know what the rates are of people that fail.
I think in Australia, it's like 5 years, most business, like 90% of business, something ridiculous, like 90% of businesses fail.
You either explode at 5 years or you implode.
Yeah.
So I guess this podcast is for courageous women, brave women. And I believe that like we're the examples, like being here in this seat, like I always say to my clients, like I'll go first. Like I go first.
I love that.
And I'll work it out and then I'll guide you from that place of integration and of knowing. There is a level sometimes of fake it till you make it and sometimes a little bit of circles going around. Yeah. But so I always ask my guests now, be brave and share something vulnerable if you're open.
Yeah.
That you're either working on or like, just anything vulnerable that you're willing to share and open up about to just encourage other women to do the same.
Yeah, you're going to die at this because I haven't told you this. But I actually, like, I was going to say it's probably about 5 months ago now, but I actually had the courage to leave a relationship that on paper was perfect.
Sorry, what?
Yeah. Yep.
I haven't noticed that.
Yeah, most people haven't noticed that, which is a good thing. And again, you've got to take time to do your healing. Yeah. Yep.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And that's why I was like, should I share this? She's going to fucking die. I know.
What? You can't tell me this on camera. Wait, so, okay.
Yeah.
So can you speak about it?
I didn't want to share that, which is like the reason that I'm choosing to share it. Because like that part in me that was like, no, the only reason I'm actually sharing it is because I wish I'd seen someone talk about it. Where on a piece of paper, everything's perfect. Everyone's telling you no, but it's perfect. But it should feel perfect. And I'm like, why doesn't it feel perfect? You know, and I think for me, I went back and forth for probably longer than I should have of should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I do it? Should I not do it? And in the end, I did have to make the decision to choose myself. And off the back end of, I think what struck that was when you said courageous. I'm like, I think a lot of women think that choosing other people in their life is the courageous thing to do. When I actually believe that choosing yourself is the most courageous thing you can do.
100%.
And especially like you add kids in there, you add, you know, I'm very blessed that I wasn't married and I didn't have kids, but like you throw all those things in, that makes it 50 times harder, 100 times harder, you know? So I feel like that's probably the thing that I've been really, really navigating. And even just like to go one layer deeper, like, you know, in a breakup, you have to really face all those parts of yourself that you didn't realize. And I think something for me where I really, really strive to be such a confident and independent person, I was like, I think I was a bit more emotionally dependent than I thought. I think I was all these sorts of things. And like, I so believe that everything that happens in your life actually just gets to be a learning lesson. So I feel like for me, that's my extra piece of courage there has been like having to face those parts of myself that I maybe thought I had healed, but hadn't, which is cool too.
Yeah, because we've talked before about your attachment style. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I think, and what I like, what I want to normalize and exactly what you normalize is like everybody has it. Everybody does it. No matter who you put on a pedestal, no matter what successful person that you look at, it's like we all do it. We're all human.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's so easy to put yourself in the box of like, why do I do this? Why do I say that? Whatever, where it's like we could just normalize all those sorts of things.
Yes.
It's so much easier.
Oh, I'm so sorry. But I'm happy for you. No,
thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Fuck that. Congratulations.
Yay.
Stop that. No, congratulations for choosing you. So brave of you.
Thank you.
So are you willing to go even a little bit deeper and talk about what's the parts of you that have come up that you're working on that have like sort of been identified from that breakup and from that relationship?
Of course. Number one, I think guilt has been a massive one that I realized. Guilt for causing any issue to anyone.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, I think a lot of me had to really face that. It's like you feel guilty for leaving, not because you feel guilty for choosing yourself and feeling guilty for hurting someone else, but in reality, by staying, you're hurting both parties. And that was almost a really big kick in the face because I'm someone that very much preaches like make those decisions based off what you want and all these sorts of things. And I think it's really, really easy to get wrapped up. You know, even I would call myself a conscious person, a self-aware person. And I was like, okay, well, you still got some work to do around that, don't you? You know, and I think like, but it's almost like really empowering to see that.
It is. And I think off the back of the last coaching session with you, like I've been sending it. I've been absolutely fucking
sending it. I'm so proud of you.
But like all the parts that come up and the theme this week, it's so funny that you just said that because I've literally been talking to Gav over and over about this feeling of guilt that follows me around everywhere. Like, oh, I feel guilty that I'm like, he's like, you were like flooded with it. It's like I spend a weekend with my kids and I absolutely nail it. But then I'm like, oh, did I show Gav enough attention? Or I didn't do enough in my business. I feel really guilty that I didn't do this. Or even like stepping up financially, it's like, oh, I feel really bad for like my family if they don't earn as much as me. And how can I give more to them? And I even felt guilty the other day for my ex-husband. I was like, if I earn more, like, and I have this amazing life in the next couple of years, I'll feel bad because like he's not going to have that. Like I literally feel guilt for every single like even this morning I was like, oh, I feel guilty that like I've only got short windows for each of my guests. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, you're like, it's my podcast. I'm inviting you.
Oh, like guilt literally. And I have to like, I've just been getting so good at witnessing it and being like, whoa, how deep is that? And it comes from, for me, like an entire childhood of psychological torture and having everything put onto me and blamed on me.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything's your fault.
And that's why when you said it, I'm like, we are very similar.
And I think I just really had to acknowledge that part of my inner child, if you will. of being like, okay, like what do I need to do then to like somewhat heal that? And I think I've come to the conclusion, I don't know if it will ever be fully healed. And I think I'm okay with that.
Well, I think it's, for me, it feels like I have this part, this
Yes.
really strong part that's like, no, you can always fully heal. Like you can always,
Yeah.
like you
I
can
love
always heal it. Like, and I will not rest until something is fully shifted.
I
So
love that.
I will let you know, bookmark this conversation. I'll let you know if I figure out how to get rid of a lifetime pattern of guilt,
A lifetime of torture.
self-guilt. Amazing. Thank you so much for being vulnerable. And I
okay.
love that you said that because I feel like, oh my gosh, our lunch after this is going to be lit.
I think it just makes other people feel seen, doesn't it? It's like,
It does. I'm sure so many women can relate. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having
me. It was an awesome chat. Loved it. If you know anybody who struggles with confidence issues, everything that we've just spoken about, send them this episode. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.